I clearly I was wrong, and the messaging of this is fundamentally clear. And by the way, Glenn is, I guess, which action figure is this? Railroad Tycoon playset, Glenn? Which Fisher Price person is it? Why aren't they happy? Because they know it's not the slam dunk they needed. They lost Virginia, or they lost New Jersey, and the guy who won Virginia did it by stiff arming and staying away from Trump, which blows their whole narrative that Trump is the salvation of the party out of the water, and leaves a window open for somebody like Kitzinger to run, and they're all fucked when that happens, because there's no way they're not going to cradle his balls. That's why. They're going to have to. He gets the nomination, they'll just like, oh, Mr. Kitzinger, please, can I, Tucker, get one of his balls, I'll carry the other one. Trust me. Yeah, I smell 5 eggs coming too. Why Virginia is proof, in all caps, Democrats are failing, in all caps, to connect with Americans. Well, Virginians, I suppose, but here we go.
Is the one and only Selena Zito.
By the way, Afghanistan, 65 days, Americans left behind. By the way, he's added words to this because Afghanistan, 65 days left behind. Everybody thought, half of his audience didn't understand the Americans part and thought that Glenn Beck was doing his show from Afghanistan and couldn't get out. And the other half thought that this was part of the Left Behind novels and that the rapture had already happened, and it proved that Glenn Beck is a false Christian because he was left behind during the tribulation. But I'm sure that Kirk Cameron would have added him to Left Behind 2 Tribulation Force.
Welcome to the program, Selena. How are you?
Good morning, Spencer.
You look.
Hi, hey, asshat, turn down the music. We cannot hear your guest.
You called it again.
Well,
Yeah, did you call? She called New Jersey?
think the thing is if you're trying to understand an election and you're trying to understand a sort of sentiments and how granular voting can be and personal for people is to
it's granular. That's what we need. We need granular. Like finally, if we're splitting hairs,
go to them and listen to them. Listen to what they're talking about. They may not always tell you who they're voting for, but they will tell you what issues are important to them. And if you understand
I didn't know that. I didn't know that if you went to voters, a lot of times they won't tell you who they voted for, but they will tell you what's important to them. That's weird. Has anybody ever thought of reporters like interviewing people at the polls and asking them that question to see if that's true? Oh, it always is.
behavior, you can start to understand that
we want a full forensic audit of Virginia. There was panda shit in those ballots.
When something is changing.
So it was a very good night last night for anyone other than progressive socialists. Right. Even in San Francisco and Seattle, the socialists did poorly.
So Biden was the bellwether, and that moderates and liberals are actually gaining ground and traction, and that's, and a couple of Republicans wiggled in and flip-flopped in that process. Is that what you're saying?
And then there were things like
like mucus.
The truck driver who had just had enough in New Jersey spent less than $200 on his campaign, and looks like he just beat the state Senate president, a Democrat.
I know.
I mean, that's fantastic. What a great story.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's wonderful. And the guy will be kind of run of the mill, and he won't be as anti-gay as you want him to be. And his
name is Edward Durr.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you strike a chord with voters, if you understand what their concerns are, if you are as deeply rooted to the community as they are, you are going to capture their imagination. In people that are successful.
Apparently, you need more than their imagination, because Murphy won New Jersey. It was a split.
In governing are people that are aspirational, people who are able to
Stu is aspirational sometimes. That's why they make him sit with his ass to the screen. And they used to share the desk.
People believe they are part of something bigger than themselves. And that, if you listen,
like a cult,
to Glenn Youngkin, if you listen to Jason Miyares, and if you listen to the House of Delegate candidates that were
or if you listen to Joe Biden, for example, who beat the last guy by 7 million votes.
They all had that message in various different ways. They understood the people and what the people wanted and what the people were longing for. And that
yes, and that longing is what brought them out to the voting booth in New Jersey to vote for the Democratic governor and then this trucker dude for the Senate seat that was open. And he won't be president of the Senate. Somebody with seniority will ultimately be president. He'll get the seat because nobody gets automatic. I don't think he automatically gets pushed to the front of the line. But and then of course really spoke to the people of because if McAuliffe can't motivate people,
that is what I wrote about in my book, The Great Revolt. I looked at these sort of different
The Great Revolt
coalition or different archetypes of voters who really didn't have a lot in common, except their rootedness to community and their sort of unhappiness with our cultural curators who run our businesses, our sports entities, our institutions, academia, and Hollywood. And that sense of not being
they go to sports games. They go to see their favorite team play, and they go to movies all the time. They binge watch shows, especially during the time they were locked in, like we all were during the lockdown. But they have a problem with how Hollywood and government is run. I mean, they get to work every day because the traffic lights they take for granted always seem to work, and they of course don't have a blowout or the transmission doesn't drop out of their car, sending them careening off a bridge because of all the safety measures and regulations that have been put in over years and years of people voting for them and refining them and that kind of stuff. But it's like fucking government's the problem. That's the problem, or whatever. Anyways, I don't even know why I need a birth certificate.
Respected by those institutions is what drew them together. That aspiration was incredibly important in this election, and I think that the Democrats really failed because they don't know how to run unless Trump is on the ticket. It was never about Donald Trump. Well,
you do realize Obama won twice and Trump wasn't on the ticket. You do realize that Bill Clinton won twice and Trump wasn't on the ticket. You do realize Clinton left with a surplus and Trump wasn't on the ticket. You do realize that Al Gore actually won by 500 votes, we would find out years later, and Trump wasn't on the ticket.
Whether you loved him or liked him or hated him, they have moved on.
Is there a subsection? Is there disgusted and amused by him? I would check that box. He makes me laugh and also nauseous.
Voters don't.
I'm just saying it's not a problem. Just saying.
Boy, that was like a lightning rod went off.
I had to beat off.
Right.
Act in the way of looking through the rearview mirror. They're always forward-looking, especially in local elections, because the roads, the bridges, the education.
Well, no, obviously the January 6th Commission, I think, is a good example of us looking backwards. But in terms of the next election, if somebody loses, I think that's worthwhile. I mean, by the way, don't just keep trying to fix 2020. Go knock yourself out.
Taxation, inflation, and economic development are constantly on their minds. And that's sort of what people miss. And I want to also point out to your listeners, two of the other sort of interesting races for Democrats was the race for mayor of Buffalo. Were you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor of Buffalo. Yeah.
Yes.
And the referendum on policing
Mhm.
in Minneapolis, all these strident or woke sort of platforms and positions failed miserably because people want police.
Gee, it's and yet Democrats won in those areas. So it's funny. It's almost as if the majority of Democrats don't support those things, and that these are actually dog whistles to scare people away from the functional aspects of the Democratic Party.
To protect them. They
Yes,
don't
fix
want a
1921st.
socialist to run their city because mayors are supposed to be
Yes, I don't know if you're familiar. If I could point you to the Democratic primary last year.
good managers. They're not supposed to be ideologues. And so, and Democrats and the media.
I'll put a pin in that for later. The city managers are not supposed to be ideologues. Okay, we'll just put a pin in that. I'm sure it will come up in a future Glenn Beck video.
Really failed to grasp what voters were so displeased with. And they focused too much on Trump, and they focused too much on every time someone said something they didn't like, that person was a racist. I mean, people just get tired of that.
So is this a rejection? I mean, I'm trying to put together all of the.
I don't know why it would be hard. Glenn, of course it was a huge win. Have you not seen Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson's? They couldn't be more happy. Of course it means. I mean, I know Virginia always flips, and I know technically you lost New Jersey, and it was a whiffer, but you did lose. And the trucker that got the job is not exactly the kind of elitist Donald Trump type you would hope in that situation. But hope springs eternal, and you could try again or whatever. But I don't know why you're having a hard time, or she's having a hard time selling this. Somehow I just don't feel like you believe it.
The pieces, and I think there's lots of reasons, and you've named
Doc, real quick. There's a feller out there. The wagon fell apart, and one of the pins came out, and it shot him right between the depot and the post office. Where'd you shoot him? Said shot him right between the depot and the post office. Yeah, but where on his body? Oh, I can point, but I can't pronounce it.
most of them. But there is a
yes, Jersey, New Jersey, Jersey.
There is this feeling that the left is elitist. They have their own language, and most of the times they're talking.
Sorry. What MAGA says? What? Sorry, MAGA. I'm sorry. There's an extra A on there. MAGA. It's MAGA. Oh, Kaken's coming to kill me. MAGA. We have our own language. Do we? Do we use the word freedom when we don't believe a woman should have the right to choose or gay people should have the right to get married? Do we actually use the word freedom in the same sentence where we utter those thoughts? We have our own language. Yes, we do. But only so it gives us an accent, you know what I'm saying? Because, as a fappy lefty from the court of Marie Antoinette, I think it is good, yes?
It's Latinx. It's Latinx. Nobody says Latinx. Except,
that's how you say that. I didn't even know how you said it. I just looked at it and was like, I don't know what that word is.
Yeah, it's Latinx. And which I think.
Oh, Latinx is what he means.
Oh, New Jersey. Doesn't it sound like Tony Soprano? Hey, I got a Latinx over here, you know?
No, just because you can only do one voice. Two, he does the big voice as well. Neither of them original. Just because you can only do two voices, and that's the only one you could think of in that moment, does not mean that thing sounds like that thing.
But, they have their own language, and I think it is off-putting to a lot of people. They just feel this elitism coming at them.
Yeah, it just oozes. It oozes with the elitism. As Democrats prepare to vote on a bill that 70% of Americans want, and no Republicans are going to vote for it. That'd be.
Is it this plus the agenda that we've seen in Washington? Plus the economy. What does it say? Let's start here. What does it say about Joe Biden?
See, yeah, right. Please bring this back to Joe Biden. Terry McAuliffe has to be Joe Biden's fault. We got to make it somehow. We know that Youngkin didn't win by cleaving to Trump, so please make it a referendum on Biden, because apparently this guy just won because Virginians flip a fucking coin.
Anything?
Yes. If you want one word to describe this election cycle, I would use the word overreach.
Overreach. That's what it was. It was overreach. So the Republicans overreached in the governor's race in New Jersey. New Jersey?
And it is an overreach on policy. It's an overreach on elitism. It's an overreach.
How do you overreach on elitism? Don't tell me you can never have too much of a good thing. Too much is never enough. An overreach? Yes, it's an overreach around. That's right.
Believing that you were sent to Washington.
Yep. Yeah. Of course, there's an overreach.
I had to beat off.
I'm sorry.
Brett Kavanaugh.
All right.
And with a mandate, and you certainly weren't, because you barely won. You don't have a majority in the Senate.
Barely won. Okay. Biden has an absolute mandate. 306, 7 million popular. That's a mandate. Trump lost the popular vote, same 306, and said he had an absolute mandate to do everything. Fuck off.
Barely have a majority in the House. Everything is about overreach. And I would add on overreach.
Yeah, it's almost as if, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, it's almost as if senators and people in the House should listen to fucking Joe Biden. Just consider that people don't get old by accident, and that they don't achieve things in life just because they're falling up a pile of stairs because that's how the other people do. He was in the House, he was in the Senate, he knows how both of them run, and he beat Donald Trump by 7 million fucking votes. Maybe listen to him when he says, do this and we will get this stuff passed. And maybe just pass what I send you and stop fucking around.
COVID, overreach on mandates,
Yes.
overreach.
On the testing mandate. I see. That's overreach. Yeah. Once a week. I mean, granted, you could catch it midweek and give it to someone by Friday, especially if you're not vaccinated, which is, at a certain point, isn't it murder? But yeah, I mean.
On name
Everything.
anything.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, just name anything, attach it to Joe Biden, blame him.
That
Correct.
is the best word.
Right,
and
Stargell.
voters always want to either put the brakes on that or correct.
Yes, no, they don't want to put the brakes on it. Virginia flips every fucking time. Because there's an independent streak that people think they have, and that's how they carry it out. There's two parties. I voted for one party last time. I'll vote for the other party this time. They'll work it out. I'm going back to sleep.
If they're putting the brakes on it, then you will only see it in a handful of elections, because Democrats will then get the message. But if they want to correct it, that means you have new people in the conservative coalition. I would argue that is the direction that this is going, because of the influx of blue-collar voters into the conservative movement.
Yes.
What do you mean? They've been there for a while. That was what Trump supposedly scooped in there. The job of the Democrats, and what Biden has been pushing, is the reclamation of those voters, which have been stiff-armed by the activist class of the Democratic Party for a long time, because they're considered largely old white guys with dirty hands.
Aren't just white. They're black. They're Hispanic.
Right. Don't scare Glenn right away though.
They're Asian.
I mean, they lost a lot of their black and Hispanic vote in Virginia. I mean, that should be very concerning to the Democrats.
But, I have been punishing myself all morning and listening.
Oh, dear.
I had to beat off.
And watching on social media, but also on MSNBC and CNN, watching the reaction and their belief as to what went wrong. And I shouldn't be stunned, but I'm stunned that they think, they think, well, if only we would have passed $3 trillion. I'm like, no voter wanted that. Voters wanted a break.
Hi, shit in your ears. What the majority of people, and I'm sure she saw someone because she probably only skates by the most extreme of the extreme. She doesn't even bother to look unless she's got somebody that she can feed off of. Mainly, we're talking about the main infrastructure bill, the one that already has passed the Senate. If you pass it in the House and you just vote on it again, it will get signed. That's what they were talking about. They'd have passed that as soon as it went through the Senate and just moved it on its way. Then they would have gotten it would have given McAuliffe something to run on. That's the theory. That's what you heard. Not the reconciliation bill. Nobody's making that argument. It hasn't been through committee yet. And if they are, it's because they just are talking in broad strokes.
Sort of a good infrastructure bill that
I did not go looking for JFK Jr. in Texas yesterday, Richard. I was going to, but I personally believe that JFK Jr. is a post-temporal spiritual being who is at one with the Matrix, and that we can all see him and none of us can see him at the same time.
So roads and bridges and creates more broadband. That's what voters want, and also to keep their water clean.
Right, and that's what most people were. By the way, that's what's in the primary infrastructure bill, which she fully well knows, and Glenn Beck is warning against the Republicans voting for at all. They wanted to shun all the Republicans that voted for this and attack them and had Trump on attacking them. So she's telling Glenn Beck, this is what they really want. Broadband, get the fucking bill passed, the actual one, which is what they were really talking about. I'm certain that when she went on MSNBC, that's what she's talking about. They'd have just passed the infrastructure bill, because that's been the argument for the last couple of days. Understand that Glenn Beck has run multiple videos and multiple shows where he's had Trump on or other people on shitting on the infrastructure bill, and he'll nod or say, yep, when she says this. They
do not want social engineering and environmental justice.
But he's dressed like an engineer. Woo!
And criminal justice and free everything. Voters never...
Criminal justice and free everything. Is that in there? When I was reading it, I didn't see criminal justice and free everything. By the way, isn't criminal justice criminals going to jail? Just saying. If a criminal gets justice, don't they get the sentence they deserve? They mean is criminal justice reform. Even that's dumb. Criminal justice reform is like, well, we used to send criminals to jail, and now we don't send criminals to jail anymore. We've reformed the entire idea of justice. We're like, again, messaging. Yes,
voted for that.
Okay, so you're a student of history enough to be able to, I think, answer this with some backing. This
is going to be good. What's the question going to be? Did the South really fight over states' rights? No.
In 1919, this is the mood. What we're feeling right now, I think, is the mood.
When, just like in Stalin's Russia, right before he starved the kulaks or some shit.
It was happening in 1919. Wilson went crazy and overreached like crazy. But what he did is when people started rejecting him, he said, I got to go out on the road. They're just too stupid to get it. I haven't made enough speeches for them to get it. I think that's what they're going.
And by the way, by get it, he means the Spanish flu.
To do this time around, which led to 10 years of the Republicans and the progressives being banished until they cloaked themselves again. And is
that where we are now? Is that Glenn Beck's version of reality, that Republicans and progressives have cloaked themselves in something, and that there's an overlap, that the rhinos themselves are actually communists. Please let this be what he thinks. Please sell this idea.
Hold things up. Are they going to go stronger? Are they going to cloak themselves? What do you think's coming?
Well, I'm pro cloak. I'm into cloakism. You know, I like, you know, good shit.
They're too arrogant to cloak themselves.
Yeah, I think so
They
too.
do not believe.
Yeah, that's right. They just, you know, and that's the worst thing. When a politician is like a narcissist who thinks that, oh shit,
that they are at fault.
yeah, that like an egomaniac, you know, who has to put an entire wall. I mean, when they could have other screens, I'm just spitballing here. Like where you have a studio, and instead of just having like a little, you know, logo or something that you make or whatever, or a little, by the way, take a picture of that with your phone and support the show. There you go. Like that kind of stuff. No. I think it's important that in your studio you have a giant wall with your name on it in case you're coming back from break and you forget who the fuck you are.
For this happening. They do believe the voters are stupid. The same voters that they praised in 2020 have now become the voters of stupid. And that's sort of the big hurdle that they have.
Yeah, I don't think that's the argument at all. I think the argument is that the Democrats that were holding up the infrastructure bill, which was very popular for a bill that is cross purposes in different districts, kept a win off the table, is mostly the argument. Not that voters are dumb. The whole argument is that people are dumb for not just passing the shit you can pass. Get points on the board is the argument right now.
Oh, no.
But hey, what do I know? I don't have a 10-foot by 6-foot banner with my fucking name on the wall. I just have to remember it, or you guys can remind me. Like and subscribe, give a thumbs up. Thanks for being here, especially you, trolls.
To try to tackle. So they're just going to double down. They're going to go out and scold voters about not knowing, not understanding, not believing that they know better and they're going to fix their lives. People don't.
Oh, okay. Just so you know, I wasn't sure what the plan was going to be going forward, but it turns out that Democrats apparently, thanks Lisa, apparently the Democrats are going to go out and scold voters. You know, that's their 2022 plan. Boy, I'm glad he got on an expert to sort this out. I would have never thought that. But then, of course, the two halves of my brain are connected with tissue. So I do have that going against me.
Want their lives fixed. They want to be able to achieve whatever they want to achieve on their own. They want that sense of earning the next step, earning the next.
Yeah, but none of us want to make our own asphalt at home. Honey, I got to go to work. Do you have the asphalt done? I'm almost done with it. I'll sit on the bumper this time and slather the road down in front of us. Where are we going? I don't know. I want to build a business in the middle of the desert from scratch. I love that, honey. Just make sure. Is there wood in the back? Timmy's still cutting down the tree. Tree? Yes, we only have one tree in our yard. We're going to need far more lumber than that. Well, where are we going to get it from? I don't know, but I'm not interested. I want to do this myself. Drive slower. The asphalt's getting hot. Shit.
Milestone that they are.
Brakes. Hold on. Honey. Yeah, it's a river. Ricky, get out here. We got to be a bridge again. Stop crying. Listen, we got to do this ourselves. We're Americans. We're bootstrappers. Now remember, you crawl up on my shoulders. We fall forward. You grab the other side. I know we're not tall enough, but just hold your breath. Mom will drive over us, and then we'll all get in the car. And then we're going to make ice cream. No, I did not say have ice cream. I said make ice cream. Yes, I will get a bowl and some rock salt and some ice, and some skim milk, and stop crying. Stop crying. Be a bridge for daddy. Be a bridge. Fuck.
Able to achieve, and even they also want to learn how to fail. That's an innate.
Yeah, that's what. You know what? That's and you're talking to the perfect guy, Selena Zito. Glenn could teach a class. People need to learn how to fail. That's the American way. That's why we want 2 years of community college where everyone flunks. That's the only difference. They would vote for 2 extra years of school if they just made sure everyone gets an F. It's a valuable life lesson.
In the American DNA that the Democrats have been trying to squash for the past 12 years.
So here's what's frightening about all of this.
Oh, God. Yes, please tell us what to be scared about. I forgot for a second that I was supposed to fear for my life in America and democracy and everything's falling apart and oh, my God, and oh, dear. And for a second there, I thought, you thought for a second that you were believing the bullshit that you guys won handily and it was a good sign. But please tell me that you feel all right.
Become more and more arrogant, and they are so self-isolated that
I feel seen. Not alone. There's cats here.
Convince each other that they are right and that everybody else is stupid. And this is
which, by the way, was the long form name of your show, I think, Glenn.
Group of people where you've got the president saying, my patience is wearing thin. This is a group of people that will.
No, hi. Oh, hold on there, shithead. What he said was our, and what he meant was all the people who've gotten vaccinated and are trying to get on with their fucking lives, and then these anti-vaxxer dickheads are wandering around endangering everyone's lives. That was the our, and that was a general consensus across the entire fucking country, and it's true. He didn't say my, though, and that's a very important distinction, shithead, that you actually think that. Glenn, fuck you. He literally had to change the quote to change the meaning apropos of fucking nothing. That quote was, and our patience is wearing thin, that was about the vaccines. That was months ago. And now he said, my. No, I'm sorry. Now you're thinking about Trump because he's the one who said, I, me, my all the goddamn time.
Begin to really punish, not just scold, but to find ways to really punish people.
Yeah, slap it and smack it. And you gotta find ways to.
I had a beat off.
Oh, that's right. You gotta be all
Go.
about it. That's right. Just don't forget.
Yeah, well, in that effort, they are going to lose constituencies that they never should lose, on paper. People are not...
On paper. By the way, the constituency they just lost, technically, on paper, in Virginia, they almost always lose in alternation from whoever's in the White House. Including Republicans, by the way.
I called.
My flight is at 8:10, so I gotta get out the door at a little after 6. So I'm watching it. Thank you for that.
Cycle way back in January, 2 days after Biden was sworn in and just started eliminating people's jobs on the pipeline.
Yep.
I said there is.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, that was the turning point for most Americans. And by Americans, I mean North Americans. And by North Americans, I mean Canadians. And by Canadians, I mean Canadian oil billionaires.
To be a great awakening. Here's what people missed in 2020. While everyone focused on
Okay. Yes, please. Tell me what we all missed. Because I think a lot of us were busy, selfishly trying to stay alive.
Democrats' wins, as slim as they were, they missed the red wave that had already...
Sorry, slim as they were? Biden won by 7 million votes. More than double the popular vote win that Hillary had over Trump. 306 electoral votes. And running as a dyed-in-the-wool bipartisan.
Started down ballot. People just in Pennsylvania alone rejected wokeness and Republicans won in states.
Yes, and Biden was a part of that. The extremes on both sides got some heat.
Seats in places that have been reliably Democrat for decades, and no one paid attention to those results. But
that's not true at all. As a matter of fact, people talked about the tightening in the House. Have we not heard about that? You guys, does anyone else smell almonds? Is there burnt toast? Someone burning toast? Have we not heard a bunch of shit about 2020 and the narrowing in the House and how it was a repudiation of wokeness and blah, blah, blah? That's been the narrative for a fucking year. What do you mean nobody talked about it?
I understood that this sort of great awakening was already in flux. It was...
Sure, yeah. I mean, you and Mike Flynn and Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood and a bunch of lunatics who were in Dealey Plaza waiting for John F. Kennedy Jr. to show up, and then, of course, went to see the Rolling Stones when they don't even like the music later to see if he would show up and play rhythm guitar. I'm sorry, Richard. I'm sorry.
It started to sort of poke up during the first few days after the inauguration. But I will tell you the most pivotal thing that happened for Democrats, and I don't think people understand,
was the election of Joe Biden by more than double the popular vote that Hillary won by. That, I would say that's significant. And of course, winning the Senate by winning the 2 seats in Georgia. I would say those are significant, but I'm probably wrong. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm probably wrong.
this is is Afghanistan, and we talked about this yesterday.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, that was, and especially in 2020, that is it.
That
changed everything.
Negligence. It
changed. Yes, that's what cost. I mean, Virginia normally flips, but that's what cost the Democrats in Virginia. McAuliffe would have had a shot if we'd have just stayed in Afghanistan.
Negligence, and that is the key word. That negligence is what made people stop and say, wait, what? This is not what I bought into. I did want a...
I'm sorry. This is not what I bought into. I wanted out of Afghanistan, but I didn't want it to be like a war or something. Hold on, I gotta jump back down to this. I want to hear the lead into this bullshit.
People stop and say, wait, what? This is not what I bought into. I did want us to be out of Afghanistan. However, I did not want it at the cost of people's lives. I did not want...
Oh, well then, if I may, ma'am, pardon me for interrupting. Can I make a suggestion? Can you fly down to Mar-a-Lago and ask Donald Trump why he set a date a year from when he signed a treaty and did none of the work required to safely create the position for us to exit Afghanistan during that year? And as a matter of fact, why he hamstrung it all. I will say this again. All 13 of those deaths are on Donald Trump. Because the crush at the airport and the last minute bullshit was all because we were under the gun from a time limit he set. We could only extend for a little while longer, or our own soldiers would get fired upon again. Trump set the date and did no work at all. None to get us out. And specifically worked against the timeline of us getting the people with special immigrant visas and their families out. He and Stephen Miller intentionally hamstrung that process. So a crush at the airport at the last minute is due to the work that was not done a year before. Go fuck yourself. And anybody in the media who talks about Afghanistan again, where like it was a debacle, and doesn't bring up the fact that Trump set the date and did nothing during his presidency to make it easier, to fulfill that promise, should be fucking ashamed of themselves. Other than that, I have no opinion.
As the cost of our reputation and
our reputation. The Chinese and the Russians are fucking pissed right now because we're not stopping ISIS-K and the Taliban and the other tribes from giving Russia a pain in the ass in Uzbekistan and bleeding into the Uyghur areas of China. Do any of these fuckers travel? I mean, I know Glenn Beck, flew to Qatar and, went to a Mideastern brothel and got a handy and then had a ham sandwich and then, live stream from there like he gave a fuck. Do you think any of these people pay attention to geopolitics at all? Are they just that dumb? They think America's not just an island, it's the fucking moon?
And people saw through the lies and are just continuing to see through the lies on this issue.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. You are the one lying. He is the one lying. Liars.
I've only got 30 seconds.
Well, it's more than you need to say everything that's in your head, Glenn.
Are these two bills waiting in Congress? Are they going to be jammed through, or do you see the sane Democrats say, no way am I getting on board with that?
See, I have always thought that their second bill wasn't going to pass. And I still think that it's not going to. I think the bipartisan infrastructure bill does pass, and I think that's the end of that.
Oh, dear. Oh, God. But both of them have to die. Because what happens to my narrative if they pass the infrastructure bill and it's bipartisan and they do all these great changes and they drafted the bill from scratch and most of the Republicans voted against it and it gives them something to run on next year and all the House Republicans voted against it except 2, and then they didn't pass the one that was communism, and I can't run on the idea that I think it was communism, and communism. Trains are communism. Oh, fuck. All my viewers read Atlas Shrugged. No, trains aren't communism. Shit.
That's huge. That is huge. Selena, thank you so much for talking to us. You can.
It's huge. And don't get offended, Stu, that he was looking at you when he said that.
Follow her writing. She is really good. She's great with historic perspective as well, if you're not familiar with her.
And by the way, you're right, Glenn. I am not familiar with her historic perspective on things because there was none in this entire interview. All of it was Beltway conventional wisdom that you've heard from a dozen other Republican reporters with no roots at all. No reference, like the idea that she was like, this is like Wilson in 1919 going crazy, which it is absolutely fucking nothing like. But thanks for the historical perspective. Did she help you pick out your wardrobe? Did she choose your outfit today? Historically, this was the day that Woodrow Wilson's cobbler came over, and he always wore a pinstripe vest and a blue button-down and no tie. And he was at one point he was murdered by Cossacks.
SelenaZito.com, SelenaZito.com. Thanks, Selena.
Sorry. Her name is Selena. Run that by me again.
SelenaZito.com, SelenaZito.com.
Oh, Selena. Yes. Thank you for correcting yourself. You initially pronounced it the way her name is spelled, Selena Zito, and then you were smart to correct yourself.
As well, if you're not familiar with her, SelenaZito.com, SelenaZito.com.
Yeah, either one. Selena, Solito. Let's call the whole thing Beck. Shit.